o'clock. I will now call to order the June 13th, 2016 meeting of the East Hampton Conservation Commission. The meeting is being recorded. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? Oh boy. We've got several. Okay.
Yeah, just talk about the handicap ramp again.
Okay. So you have a draft and you want to know what you need to ask about?
Yes.
Okay. You want to ask if the work is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act. That's what you want to ask.
I believe we got most of our phase of work in.
Yep, we do need, so the next steps, you sign it. Someone signs it for the Rod and Gun Club.
Okay.
You guys are the owners, so you don't need to worry about the property owner. You send, you give us a copy, and just, we can scan it and share it. You have to send a copy to DEP in Springfield, and you have to arrange for a legal ad to be published in the Gazette.
Right.
Okay.
The DEP one, I was a little confused with it. I didn't know.
Okay.
There were some questions on there that I couldn't answer. Applicability, I think, right on the second page. Maybe it was the first page. But,
Do you want to come up?
Sure.
Show me which part you need.
Also, the narrative description, I'd like to replace the one that I submitted.
Courtney, what are you up to today?
And submit,
You got your bodyguard with you.
And you have this,
How come you're not sitting in the front and listening?
I don't
you
want
have
to
copies.
picture.
Okay. So we need,
I need to take that.
Talk like you are.
that's okay, it's just, it's on the back of the page. And someone wants to sign.
No, you're
David.
The door is locked.
It was, oh, it was? Yeah. It's open when you came through.
No, I'm saying it's
Oh, sorry.
so everything is up there. It says
And then can you sign the letter? So, you need to, why don't you, keep a sign? So, you need to send a copy of this to DEP. And we will, and have a legal notice published. Our next meeting is June 27th, so you need to have a legal notice published June 22nd. Is that right? No, June 20th,
This is
20th, I'm lying,
2 months
20th,
later.
the latest.
The latest.
You can have it
Same
published
there.
sooner. I did my math wrong.
Do they need
Same
the
there.
address of Western Region?
Do you need the Western Region address?
Okay. You know it off the top of your head.
436 White Street, Mass. I don't have the zip code off the top of my head. Sorry. Probably 01104. But
Nice the butters we have, huh? Christine. Christine.
01107.
darn it, I was close.
This is.
51103.
Yeah, we just finished.
Or maybe it depends on the number.
Well, we
It
got
does.
one
Yeah.
that's gonna close in July.
Fish.
One's gonna close in July.
Oh, it's WCA form.
Yep, yep.
Must be high plate chairs.
I didn't know
Sure do.
which one, which box to fill
The
out.
boxes are all messed up here, so just do that one.
Okay,
We don't have a bylaw, so that's not a bylaw.
are you gonna keep this down?
Uh-huh. Or do you want
Yeah.
to, you can,
No, I can
make
fill
your
out-
copy of
I
the,
can fill
yeah,
out
the Jeremy
all
sign this one. Yeah, I don't need a whole new one.
We can even make a copy here.
Yep. Why don't I go do that?
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna do a- I'll be right back.
Questions or other things to fill out? It's coming up. It's the same.
Who's Anne?
I'm Ann.
How do you spell your last name?
RASMUSSEN.
Thank you.
That would cover it. You already signed this. The other thing, guys.
I couldn't do it on the 5/17 for the plan, so there's no plan.
Sue introduced
Put
us
another
to
one on.
her. She's not gonna be able to make it.
That's as is. So this will be on the June, the June 27th meeting. Legal notice by the 20th.
June 27th.
So 2 weeks from today.
You need to read it?
No, we'll do it this one. It's just fine. All right, so, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Agenda item.
Agenda. You don't have any. Guess we're all set.
Have a good night.
Which thing is, which thing is that? Susan?
Thank you.
Good night. Next, man had a public concern.
Yes, my name is Ann Rasmussen. My wife and I live at 44 Caroline Circle. And last Wednesday, the 8th of June, I witnessed what I believe to be an environmental violation regarding the wetlands and the property across the street from our home. I sent a letter or an email to Jessica Allen, and I also sent it to the Conservation Act email address, and then I got a notice back saying that it might be discussed at tonight's meeting. So I'm not sure in how much detail you need me to go, or if we...
Well, I have the email, thank
Okay.
you. I was planning on touching base under item 6, enforcement orders, which we also discussed violations.
Okay,
So we'll
that's fine.
table it until then.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Get this back in the right spot. Okay. Other public concerns, non-agenda items. All right, moving on to public hearings and meetings. We have a request for determination of applicability filed by East Hampton Public Schools for White Brook Middle School football field lighting improvements at 200 Park Street. Hello, please
Hi.
introduce yourself for the record.
Sure, I'm Tom Hogan, I'm a volunteer with East Hampton Friends Football. I'm working with the school department.
You would just run us through the work that's subject to the commission's jurisdiction?
Sure.
Do you want the easel? It's in the back
Yeah,
corner.
there is
Oh, it's in the box on the top of the cabinet.
Thank you.
That way everybody can see.
Theoretically. Oops. Please don't kill yourself with that.
Unless they break this
Oh, but it's the new one.
How many players and engineers does it take to open an easel?
That's why we do outside. Never goes well with that system.
I know, right?
Hold on.
Okay.
All right.
You got, you twisted thing.
Right, over the past couple of years, we've been on an endeavor to improve the conditions at our only public football field here in the city. And then we made a great effort, great push last year to improve the drainage conditions. And this year, what we would like to do and what we propose and what we've worked with Community Preservation Act in doing is securing funding for the installation of lights at the field. We're proposing 4 lights, 4 light pole locations on the north and south sides of the field. If you remember, during the original permitting for the project, we had the wetlands delineated on the north side by New England Environmental, and we believe that delineation still holds the work that we're proposing. The work that we're proposing is buffer zone work for the installation of one pole and some conduit that would serve that pole from a center conduit, and then conduit that would serve the northeastern pole, so about 160 feet of small diameter conduit, just electrical feet, and the augering of this pole here. And the picture is an example of what this would look like on a pole that would be a 30-inch diameter auger, about 14 feet deep.
Truck mounted, rig mount, how mounted? Something just backs right up to that location, is it on
I'm not sure how exactly.
But it would be from the
Yes.
base of the outside, yeah. How deep and wide would the trench for the electrical conduit be?
We think it would just be ditch witch style, so it would
Okay.
be at least 18 inches.
And deep is,
And wide, it's a,
That's-
I think it's a 2.5 inch conduit,
okay.
so it would probably be a 6-inch ditch, so.
And then,
6 inches deep and 18 inches wide,
No,
or
the other
was
way.
it 6 inches
Yeah.
wide, but, okay, yeah.
Ish.
Ish.
yeah, approximately.
Yeah.
And
That's the
then
idea.
it'll be
We'll be backfilled.
backfilled, loamed and seated, or just seated?
Just see it. And it would, the poles are precast, so they're not going to be blown into this one.
And when do you anticipate this work occurring?
July and maybe August.
How long does it take?
I think that'll take a week or two.
Oh, wow. I guess there's the 4 posts, we don't, right. I was thinking
Yeah.
at first it would just be 2, but it's
Yeah.
actually 4, so.
I anticipate that they would, you know, how long would it take the work? And I'm guessing that it would take probably a day or two.
Other questions, comments, concerns?
We're having materials being removed, so that's gonna get removed and taken off the site.
Yeah. So probably, I did a rough calculation on that. I think it was 2 yards.
Okay.
Is there another sheet that shows erosion controls?
Well, no. We can do them.
Okay.
You know, I'm wrestling with the balance of, does it cause more damage to put erosion controls in this augering a 30-inch hole? And I'll be added to, you know, I thought we could talk about it if it's a preference. And we don't mind doing it. It's a short amount. We can easily add it.
I think I'd like to see a wall staked in, not a trench,
Yeah, 'cause it
just
doesn't
staked.
disturb much.
That way you're not creating a trench for the erosion control that then has to stabilize itself after.
That's great.
So, you're talking probably from here.
Yep, just to the end of buffer zone.
Sure.
Yeah,
This one's-
so that's, yeah.
Be about this thing.
And then you can even cut open the netting and spread the straw and just let it mulch. Or spread over the seeded area.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So, with that, any further discussion?
I just have a question. Is there, what is that stone-looking square?
Here?
Yeah.
That was part of the drainage improvements that we agreed to do. It's part of phase 1.
Okay, so that's already.
This is,
That's-
I just took the bid drawings and added.
And better, just kind of went out there a month ago? About a month ago. We had a couple of other visits scheduled, and we swung by and walked around.
Stay.
More or less, you can definitely tell where the work was done,
Yeah.
but it's going in. So
Yeah,
hopefully
good.
the past month has been good to it.
No, and the community's pleased with the way the project has turned out.
Excellent.
Achieved what we were trying to do.
All right. So with that, would anyone care to make a motion regarding this action? Does the commission think a notice of intent should be filed or not? I don't. So that would be a negative determination. And then do we want notification? We need to, I think we need to include a condition that we
48-hour
talk about.
notification for the
And the
erosion.
erosion controls to be installed consistent with straw level within the buffer zone. Is there a motion? Kevin?
I move to make a negative determination and include the conditions of 48-hour notice before construction and straw wattles as consistent with work in a buffer zone.
Is there a
I'll second
second?
the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
What do you think, Eddie?
Two Ts. You wait a minute, we can collect signatures, make a copy, and hand deliver?
That'd be great.
Okay. We should. That's what I'm saying. Sorry. I just- It's a much fuller.
Type names and-
That's exactly why.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is this still in progress, is that project? So it's something like could have been amended or conditions?
Wasn't our
Okay.
message generation for the buffer zone. Okay. All right, is everyone ready? Now that I'm ready. Next item on the agenda is a continuation of the public hearing for a notice of intent for the construction of commercial property off O'Neill Street, filed by Logan Properties of West Hampton, Massachusetts, DEP file number 151287. Mike, good evening.
How you doing? For the record, my name's Mark Reed from Heritage Surveys, representing Dave Logan, who couldn't be here tonight because he's on a field trip with his daughter for school. Dave Boyle's here, who is the property owner. And we wanted to come in and meet with the commission. We received the response letter from Doucette Associates and didn't know if the commission had time to review it and had some questions about the level of.
Can we run through it together?
Sure. Sure. You have your copies?
I don't have a copy with me.
Oh,
This is
okay.
what I feel print.
David.
Oh, thank you, David. Okay. So, start with Stockman.
Stockman's, right. Some of the items in the Stockman letter, for instance, number one is really a response from the commission relative to, I don't know if you want to read through them all or how you want to handle both of them.
Summarize.
Right. Okay.
Good.
So item number one is the areas outside of the wetland crossings. She's looking, or suggesting that we maintain a 25-foot buffer, which we had discussed before. And that because of the configuration of the site and tightness of the area, we're asking for work within the 25-foot buffer. And she's reiterating that she strongly suggests that we try to maintain that. And I would say that that would be up to the commission to agree or disagree.
I'm just gonna open up these are the revised plans, so.
Right, the plan should be dated. May 4th.
Okay, that's what these are. So I'm just gonna open it up to proposed
Proposed
conditions.
conditions, right. In some,
Okay.
some areas we do have, 25 feet. Other areas we don't, after everything's said and done. We are proposing that the erosion control barriers be placed at a minimum of 10 feet, would be the closest areas to the resource areas. But you can see in this area, after, all said and done, we'll have about 25-foot distance from that area, so I just, wanted to, before we go in, because you're the approving authority, it's really up to the commission. These are recommendations or her opinion relative to it.
Let's keep moving. I think we'll discuss things collectively, maybe.
Okay.
I think
Sheet
that'll-
2 then?
Just because everything is so tied together.
Sure, okay. So that her second comment is, there has been no response to the comment during our site visit. Proposed wetland crossing area was reviewed, hydrosoils and wetland vegetation. And that, this is the only area that we can cross. We're crossing at the narrowest point. Chuck Dowshy did a response letter to the commission relative to the types of vegetation in there. And not sure if the commission's satisfied with his response letter. Relative to that, or do you want more data relative to soils?
Where I would want the more data is in the replication areas. Like
Okay.
cross-sectionally, how how you're going to grade down to the typical cross-section for each one so that whoever's building it,
Mhm.
understands how deep they need to dig.
Okay. We have a
within-
typical section on how to do the replication, which is on the, right. So we do have a detail of how to, lower the grade below the existing,
Does it,
here, okay?
sorry,
So that we're talking about, a section, that would get removed and
Yeah.
to a depth below the wetland.
but we're not where are we specifying?
Depth.
Depth,
Right.
we set
So
final grade was 6
over-excavate
inches
by
of
1
really
feet,
grades, there's a
right.
water table, but you don't, I think what we're getting at is, more specifically what, if you were to call out a section, section
Mhm, yeah.
A,
Okay.
you'd be taking it, you'd be at that existing grade is elevation,
Okay.
give me a number, and then propose, excavate down to, and then the soil amendments up to,
Okay.
I know you've given thicknesses, but I
Right.
think that's the kind of, detailed section that I would be looking for. And I think that would,
Okay.
go toward the successful restoration, including, where that high groundwater table was observed, so that, we know when it's being monitored, that's what we should be seeing in that successful replication area.
Okay.
Rather than, I don't know who's gonna be doing the work or under whose supervision.
Right.
And I would not wanna see the effort put into creating that larger replication area only to have it not work,
Correct.
have to get done again.
Correct.
No one wants that,
Right.
so.
Well, Mr. Logan has an excavating business.
I
And,
assume he might do his own.
He'd be doing the work, and then, you need to approve the
Right.
person that's gonna oversee that.
So that's
That's
the
one another
section I
comment,
would want.
whether it be a soil scientist or
Mhm.
someone else that needs to get approved by the commission.
Yep.
Um,
So that's the sort of replacement area section I would want for each location.
Okay, we can take a look at that.
That way,
Some existing soil data and,
and then
And
using
then
that based on the
cross-section.
existing elevations that we have here, create that cross-section that shows existing grade, proposed grade, and how that translates to the typical section that's not to scale here.
Okay.
I don't think, so that the kind of working at the bottom of the page, she starts a comment about guidance regarding whether or not the presence of fill is a violation requiring restoration, and
Right.
It's historic at worst.
Correct.
So, I don't think there's a wetlands violation under the Wetlands Protection Act that we can pursue.
That was a question, yeah, right, that would be for you to make that determination
I certainly,
if you. Okay.
I think this is a very altered area of town historically, like wetlands through the industrial park area.
Okay.
That all predated the wetlands jurisdiction.
So that, on top of page 3, she talks about a barrier between the wetland and the replication area. And on our plans, we're proposing a silt fence be installed between the wetland boundary and the replication area during construction only. So that silt fence will come out after the replication is done.
And then it'll be raked.
And then raked and seeded, because, during the removal of the soil, you don't want, if you didn't have any erosion control barrier around this wetland boundary, you would have the soils going right into your wetlands, so.
No, I'm fine with that, the temporary nature of that barrier. And I think, and that wouldn't be installed until they were ready to do the replication. So that would be the commission going back out once you were at that point?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Another comment is recommending that, you know, the monitoring be performed by a wetlands scientist. Again, that's typically one of your order conditions. You have to approve whoever's gonna do the monitoring. In the middle of page 3 here. And that the, she's still reiterating about the larger parcel and the work. Which
It'd be
we
bad if they addressed that.
addressed that, so I thought we did, so.
Mhm.
But she's saying no responses provided, but I thought we did, so.
I thought you provided a very detailed response, and David definitely dug through his files for that, so thank you.
You know, she's suggesting that we go through the checklist.
Mhm.
And typically, that's sometimes used and sometimes not used. So if the commission wants us to go through the whole checklist for replication.
At this point, I'm more concerned with the cross sections,
Okay.
the detailed cross sections.
Okay. Okay. And she's asking for further review on the plans for supervision and monitoring, which is, I think, is part of the order conditions again.
Right.
Just going through that again. I think we can address some of her comments. She talks about Chuck Dausch's letter and soils and looking at some cross-sectional views, so we can do that.
One of the things that I would recommend we provide as a condition is an invasive species control plan as part of the monitoring requirement.
Okay.
So, monitoring for their presence and a plan to remove or manage them.
Okay.
Within, and that's gonna be difficult to do because the
Correct.
surrounding area is
Is so, yeah.
overwhelmed by Phragmites.
Phragmites,
Um,
right, primarily, they're everywhere. Primarily, you know, all this area here, it's just solid
Mhm.
Phragmites.
And again, the intent is to seed with New England wet mix?
Correct.
And was there a shrub?
So that we were gonna
As well?
transplant some of the shrubs that were in
Okay.
the wetland crossing to the areas and supplement them, as we said in our letter,
Mhm.
with additional plantings if needed. Trouble is, you know, right now, this site is so heavily wooded, hemlock, you know, the vegetation, ground vegetation is pretty much non-existent.
Right.
There's no sunlight getting in.
Right.
After it's cleared up, then you'll get some more ground vegetation coming in and some other species come in because you're gonna introduce some light into the area. And, you know, that's where, you know, the Phragmites are coming because that's where the light is.
I would wanna see a minimum percent cover of shrubs.
Okay.
And then that would have to be quantified, so if it was like, 38% aerial cover shrubs,
Okay.
how many would that be, at what, center spacing? Which would tell you how many
Right, shrubs
total
we
you would
need.
need to, you would have, and then, whatever's native that you can salvage from the impact area, you would then know what you'd need to supplement.
Okay.
And then we would know, I would want also post-replication construction inventory of what was installed as a measure of success.
Mhm. Excuse me. And then her page 5, item number 11, is, I believe,
We haven't
again,
issued
the
any-
conditions.
We
You haven't-
haven't issued any orders of conditions, therefore we have no jurisdiction over any past orders of conditions.
Right.
Is that correct? I mean, I know I haven't been on the commission as long as some of those projects, but they were all Northampton, right? Everything here was buffer zone?
There were, yes, they were all buffer zone work. So that all the projects, even the two in East Hampton, were buffer zone. There were no work in any resource areas.
So I understand the intent of that comment, and it's one of the reasons one of our standard conditions is that an order, a certificate of compliance be requested, because otherwise there's actually no requirement in the regulations. So unless we put it in there, it's a weird quirk of the regulations,
Regulation.
that they don't require it. It's, if it wasn't required, it's not in our ability to retroactively require that. If it becomes an issue for title transfer, that's another story altogether, but that, again, the burden is on. Right. So, are there any other questions, comments, concerns about the wetlands comments?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Some of them I think were, really addressed to whether the commission approves or denies or, and/or makes a conditions,
Right.
part of the conditions for it, so.
So, stormwater?
Stormwater, unfortunately, there hasn't, I'm not sure if Larry's been to the site, but I know that Doucette's office used to be located at the intersection. He's suggesting that we instead include all the development that was right up at the corner of the property as part of the pre-development. We did not, in our revised drainage calcs, we did not include the development at the corner because it has its own stormwater basin system. And, that's all existing conditions. The existing, whatever comes from the intersection of O'Neill Street and Northampton Street does come down and makes its way, as you may remember from the site, around this area, because this is an elevated, higher ground. So the stormwater either goes through here during a heavy rain event to these two wetland resource areas, or around the site. It doesn't come up into the site. So it's really, we can put it in there, but it's gonna be the same numbers. If you, let's say, for instance, you had, 10 cubic feet per second of additional stormwater from the development here. Well, afterwards, you're still gonna have 10, because it's existing. There's nothing new, So, we could throw in, try to do that, but it's like, what for?
I mean, that's stormwater that's coming onto the site from another stormwater system.
Correct.
I'm really more concerned with the impact that the stormwater from the site be managed.
Correct. That's what I thought too.
Because it's not like there's,
Right. And it does have its own stormwater basin.
and that overflows into the Phragmites.
Yep, and it all flows into the Phragmites. So, and then we did do a sizing of the culvert based on, it. He's asking for, I guess, more sizing of the culvert, I'm not sure. Trouble is that,
You base it on what we're building here, right?
we sized this culvert based on what the capacity of the culvert is. This area here is so flat, the stormwater, the grades are so flat in this area. You've got elevation 151, 151, 152, 151, 152. It just sits there, doesn't go anywhere. So in our response letter, we gave the capacity of each culvert could take 16 cubic feet per second through them if there was a major flood. we put the culverts in there originally, at the, or as a comment from Mark Stinson from DEP. So,
Did you say the existing stormwater is in that corner up there?
the existing stormwater is like way up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sense of why I probably made that suggestion.
Right, and then there's an existing culvert pipe that comes from across O'Neill Street, which is on the down gradient side of the whole driveway.
Okay, so it's not coming from the inlet and then going on
Right.
there, okay. So that's the only reason why I could say it
Right.
was saying.
Right. So between the two of them, you know, the two pipes can take 30 cubic feet per second of stormwater, that's
It
a
also
lot.
could flow around the whole.
And it, yeah, well, yeah, right, yeah, most likely.
That's lower over there.
You're right, Jay. Yeah, most likely the lower topography, because this whole area takes it around the backside and through this little swale into the whole canal. So,
I think that's been addressed.
and then the last item was relative to the stormwater mounding calculations. As I said in our cover letter, we didn't do stormwater mounding calculations because of the mix of soils. We had, you know, A soils over in this corner. We designed it for the worst soil conditions. But we had A soils here. There's only from the orifice, from the bottom of the basin to the orifice, there's only 6 inches that could ever, stormwater that would ever sit in this basin, because the orifice will allow stormwater to run. He's talking about a low-level discharge and,
Lights are out everywhere.
you know,
All the lights went out.
so, and I know Dan was, last time.
Missing Dan Butcher.
Yeah, right.
The absence,
Yeah,
the
sorry,
absent Dan
yeah,
Butcher.
sorry, yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, Dan made a comment last time that he, you know, was, looked at it, so he was satisfied with what he was looking at, so. We should, you know, we wanna work with everyone and, you know,
Do you anticipate providing a safety fence of any sort that
We can.
is recommended?
we can do a fence. If you would like, I mean, it's a commercial site, surrounded by a very large wetland.
Will they put, do you envision they would put a gate on their driveway at any location?
Across.
Yeah.
access.
Correct. We can.
Again, I'm asking, I'm not.
Yeah, right,
saying
I'm not
you
sure. I'd
need
have
to
to-
or should.
Yes,
Could
I'd
you
have
ask
to-
Mr. Logan?
I would ask Mr. Logan that.
I mean, honestly,
I think he'll do it.
Yeah,
No.
a gate. Yeah.
okay.
I mean, a gate would
Need
make
a place
more
for the
I
sense.
understand the concern at this location. But didn't that would make maintenance more difficult.
Correct.
But this is not I mean, yes, technically at the moment, there's a school across the street, but I don't see this being a heavily trafficked area.
Well, yeah, because the only thing
Because you
you're gonna
don't
see
get anywhere.
from Northampton, or from, you know, O'Neill Street is the driveway. You're not gonna see this because you're surrounded by hemlock.
Do they need to put a sign up and have a foundation for the signposts?
For the business?
Yeah.
Nah, I don't
Not
think he
quite.
even needs or wants a sign
Okay.
for it, so.
Well, no, I just think on those slopes and in that buffer zone,
Yeah, right.
you know, if he envisioned something like that, that now would be the time
Yeah.
to include it. So you're going to provide those more detailed
Yes.
cross sections?
I will do that.
And shrub, include, and a calculation, quantification of native shrubs to be installed.
Mhm.
Total number in each area, recreation area, okay. So, and do you think you could have that for our next meeting?
I think so.
Okay.
I can work with Chuck Dalshian on some of this stuff, because was willing and ready to work with us to get this set, so yes.
Okay, great. So, with that, I think, is there any further discussion? All right, Motion to continue.
I'll make a motion to continue notice of intent for the commercial property off of Neal Street to June 27th, 6 o'clock.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks much.
Do some water. That didn't work. I think it would reach the whole way. Okay. So let's move ahead to enforcement orders and violations and skip ahead to the recent notice regarding 47 Caroline Circle. And then get the file. Jake, was the site plan in the file or up top?
I don't remember.
It's right here. All right. Would you like to come up so you can see what we're looking at?
Absolutely.
You can, more than welcome to bring chairs. All right. So, Julia.
Why get up?
I know.
And Julia, sorry, you weren't in the email. You weren't in the address book. That's okay. There was a concern expressed regarding activities at 47 Caroline Circle, which is something we just issued a certificate of compliance for, regarding dirt and mulch being pushed into a wetland. Water was splashing up. So this is the site plan. And Jay went out, that's Jay,
Yeah,
right, sure.
this week.
I think the day after your notice came in. This is an older site, this doesn't seem right. This would be, that doesn't seem like the, well, it's also not the site plan that I was used to seeing, so let's hold off on that, because that probably is, maybe it was above. I'm sorry. Yeah, so can you go look for the site plan above? Donna, what's your last name?
Is it gonna be a thick one or a thin one?
I think it's thin.
I would hope so.
Let's see, Wednesday, Friday the 10th, Wednesday the 8th.
And you call them in? I call them in. Can we get out of the? And then these are the. No, but, and in fact, I didn't format these well, but.
Bigger version.
What about these ones, Jay?
Can you
They're
open
so
the
they're so
door?
huge, they're so big.
Can you open the door for another 47 Caroline? And I'm wondering, and 44, because this would have, that pipe you're talking about, I hope, just so that we have some idea of how the connection neighbors. Is that the one? 47 Caroline Circle. Oh, this is. Yes, much better. Okay. And so you think 44 is over here, this is the driveway, this is the house, this is the raised porch. So this is the limit of lawn work limit in this dark dash line, and then this is the wetland boundary limit. these are the flag locations
Is
where the
this
survey was
where
conducted.
the work is being performed in that
It
area?
was over
Or the side?
the
Okay.
side of the house.
So it wasn't this, it was over here?
It
Well, it was
was.
both.
It was both, okay.
Wait, this is the driveway?
Yeah.
But yeah, but, well, he
Yeah.
was, the pile of mulch and dirt was like right back here.
Okay, so they have boulders demarcating a limited lawn.
Right.
Okay, and that's, within that they can do stuff?
Whatever,
Yeah.
right, okay.
So it'd be right around that area, I don't know. You know,
Okay.
The fact that I saw water splashing was a concern.
Yeah, and understandably, and, unfortunately, this is an isolated wetland, and we don't have jurisdiction at the town level.
Okay.
But I did receive a phone call from Timothy McKenna at Mass DEP. And I told him that we would be looking into it and talking about it, and then I would get back to him. So I will let him know that I'll send him this and let him know that there's an isolated wetland that is outside local jurisdiction, but that he can, well, they're in Springfield, so,
But this is not the area you were talking about.
No, I'm concerned about that area.
That's the area where the trees were, right, where that.
Yes, I know, but
was.
the conduit under the street goes right
so
there.
let's.
And I guess,
see
you know,
if it shows on your plan.
We had a couple of questions, and one of which was exactly how this covenant works and what people can and can't do on both sides of that street, because we've been very, you
Don't go to the
back
trees.
there. Don't go back there.
This is what it looked like before.
Mhm.
This is from May 20th. That photo's from May 20th.
Yes.
You know, this one.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
he
because
chopped
we
down
had
all
to-
those trees.
Yeah. My understanding,
Striking
again,
things,
from
but-
the, you know, whatever, but when they first set this up, I realized that the footprint is, you know, he put this big, all this plastic around the footprint, and then he put this plastic in the middle, and I'm like, I think he's gotta leave that area there, and that's why,
Right.
and he in fact did leave it. But
The
that's
the
covered.
builder did.
The builder did.
The builder
Yeah,
did.
and the builders went
And
and got
now
the
the
permit.
trees are
Right,
gone,
the
and
builder
it's been
got the
filled in.
permit, yeah.
So,
Just that little spat, but it was really interesting, because we kind of thought, you know, we were thinking to ourselves, wow, there must be some sort of requirement for him to leave some trees, but they were the scrappiest half-dead trees you've ever saw.
Yeah, this is not.
So.
well, that's actually, they elected to keep that, not touch that, regardless of Wetlands Protection Act jurisdiction. So,
Yeah, it's touched now.
that was builder,
Yeah.
not the
Oh,
owner.
okay.
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 And your plan does show this pipe ending, or, you know, and then this little squiggle indicates that it keeps going, but they didn't
Right.
survey it beyond your plan.
So our concern is
Mhm.
the equilibrium
Mhm.
between those two, that if it's plugged up
Yeah.
either intentionally or
That's his side.
unintentionally
That's
through his
Oh, is this-
actions that.
I don't know which house is which here. Okay, so,
Wait, is there a culvert? that
This is
goes
the
through-
correct driveway on the road, on the correct side, but I don't know if that's the lot number.
For 47?
so your
No, isn't this your side, 44?
This is
46,
44.
48?
Yes, but that's not.
That's not our.
Is
on
that
our
your,
property.
is that yours?
That's ours.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No. Really? These
Oh,
these
okay,
random boxes
yes.
on the page?
Yes.
So this shows a pipe here
Mhm.
on your neighbor's property.
Well, it goes through our property.
Well, this is showing us the lot line
It's on
here.
Yes.
I don't-
It's definitely in our property, because
It's
when we
on
had
our
that,
property.
we had the city
Absolutely.
had to come in and dig up
Um,
our yard, and that was on our property.
So, and then the corner to the next,
That's,
is that
Lexington,
Lexington?
yeah.
And is there a house here?
There's a house here.
So, okay, but that's
Yeah,
part of their
this
lot.
This is woods and that's part of that.
Yeah,
lot.
Just
but this
because they
is-
show this
yeah.
doesn't mean they built
This
it
is
that
our
way.
house,
That's
because
your
our,
property.
I'm looking at, our garage is on the other side,
This
this,
is on the other
yeah.
side.
That happens.
Yeah, I don't know why, but yeah, it's,
Well, because
it's
they don't know what
switched.
they're looking
But this is definitely ours,
Okay.
because our property.
You have that
is-
drainage, okay, so, okay.
And if you go, island, that's interesting. but-
Well, that just means that there's,
There's
there's
stuff.
a higher area that's not wetland in the
Oh,
middle of,
okay.
in the middle of a wetland, so.
Okay, because it goes right back to
Like-
this vernal pool, I guess,
Okay,
in back,
okay,
and, yeah.
all right, so we actually do need to look into this more.
Yeah, but I didn't look at that location.
Well, also, it's not
But this
isolated if it
keeps
has a
going, yeah.
hydrologic
Right, now it
connection
has
to
a
an
connection,
upgraded
right, now it
wetland.
has a connection.
Oh, so this connects.
If this connects to
Here.
that,
Yep, under the
So
street.
this goes this way.
This goes, and where our house is over here.
So-
and the-
So if anything.
Wait, so it drains that way?
It drains both ways,
It
because
just maintains the
it
other way
drains the
out.
water,
Yep.
you know.
When we had to have it scoped a couple of years ago because property that was built on the other side of Lexington changed the water table and we ended up with a huge groundwater problem.
Who's
With a $30,000 groundwater.
That's
Which is
already
the other
insurance.
reason that I freaked out when I saw this backhoe, because we can't afford that again.
Oh.
But when we had it scoped, there was very little water in it, and that was March,
That's a
April.
stream.
So it doesn't, it's not filled often, but water does flow.
Yeah, but
And even
it's-
if they're building, they should have protected that somehow.
well, that was historically filled, I believe, maybe. 'Cause it's hard to see, I don't know what the symbol means here. Proposed trees and grass is what that means, even though that's very commonly used as a symbol.
Yeah.
It's usually on the other side, and then this is fill, they filled wetland over here. Okay, so what I need to do is, to be continued, okay? So, this property has a long history of permitting and when it's been extended. That was not known. So I will relay this to DEP and see if they will help.
Can I ask a question from the prior scoping of the thing be helpful at this time? I mean, you must have had a professional.
We had a Fletcher Drain come in and
Fletcher
scope
come in
it just to
and
see if that was the reason why we were getting groundwater, it wouldn't, but.
It took us a week to find out where the water was coming from. The water just kept coming in, it took us a
Would that be
week to find out where it was
So
coming from.
unless it has elevation data, which I doubt it would.
Probably not, just,
Yeah,
it's.
they just cleaned the
It was
line,
just a video.
yeah.
Yeah, video.
Yeah, they
Thank-
didn't really
thank
clean it,
you.
they just took a video.
Yeah, to see if there were any obstructions. So at this point, I think I'm gonna send a PDF of this and this to McKenna and say, what can you do to help?
May I ask a question? Sure. I don't recall from when we moved in because it was a while ago, but would he be aware of all of this? Like, is this in the deed to his home, or is there something that, I'm just curious because
So-
I don't know if he knows about the pipe, I'm just
I
trying
don't,
to get a.
well, this doesn't show a pipe coming into that area, so,
Right.
so the,
Would it be?
it might be on,
As
it
far
might
as
be
the
on the
restricted
deed,
use
it
of
might
his
be on the
property?
deed, there might be an easement that comes into the property.
There's some sort of, what it's called, there's some sort of covenant or something, Tannenbrook. Because I remember when we bought there was some kind of, again, a covenant with wetlands where you can't do this, you can't do that. For the longest time, they couldn't build that house
Mm-hmm.
across there. They kept coming and asking if you can build it.
Hmm.
The same
Yeah,
builder
they
owns,
get-
built our
Yeah.
house, built all over the
Lawrence.
place. And, yeah, and then he came in and the driest summer that we had, they came in the middle of the summer, we're like, it's always flooded over there. I mean,
Yeah,
how are
it's
they gonna
just-
build that? And they put up these stakes
No.
and I was like, okay, the footprint's gotta be tiny, there can't be a yard and all of that was well and good, but then this guy sold and then built the house and now there's a bobcat going back and forth. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't know if he knows that he,
And I'm certainly not gonna go talk to him.
yeah, I don't know
I'm not-
what the situation is.
I'm not in that position. But my concern is, so what would happen if he were to keep, let's say the bobcat comes back, or it wasn't a bobcat, it was a different bobcat. But if damage is done, you know, if he did this and it is an issue, I'm concerned that something might happen in the back of the yard as well, that would be even more detrimental to the wetlands. I'm just, what happens? Is the damage done at that point? Like, what is it,
No.
just a
It
fine,
depends
or
on-
do they have to make it right, or?
It could be any of the above. It depends on the. Okay. So, we'll relay this to DC
And
and.
does he receive any kind of, would the homeowner receive any kind of notification that this discovery or this investigation is going
I
on?
will ask DEP if they will,
Because that might just
if they'll pursue
stop
it to
him
that
from-
level. Mhm.
Okay, and I don't expect this, but what are, and I don't wanna say what is our recourse, what we're concerned about is having another flood in the basement.
Mhm.
You know, as much as we are the fact that we live in a nice area that has lots of trees and we can want a house built there, but I'm just concerned that, you know, if water comes forward, what kind of recourse do we have?
Take your son
When
out for a beer.
we're like, well,
Yeah. No.
you know there's a conduit under the street, you're in and out of nowhere, and while this is going, you know, what kind of recourse will we
The
have?
insurance company, what you would think,
we've been through that before. And that's really, you know, as far as recourse, that's really ultimately what I'm concerned about. I'm
Right.
concerned about the fact that he's
Sure.
obstructing the wetlands and, you know, that's important to us, that's why we bought there, but
Right.
realistically, I'm being selfish about it, I don't want another $30,000.
They trying to do their house.
Understandable. And the answer is I don't know. I think step one is I'll relay this information to DEP and say, what can you do?
Great.
Because we don't have the resources in town.
Okay. And what do we do at this point? Just wait and see, and, or do we get a copy of the letter or
You're
something?
welcome to follow up.
Okay.
If, we'll probably continue discussion of this at our next meeting. It'll go on the 27th. It'll go under, potential violation at this point, and we'll pursue discussion at that point, all right?
Or
2 weeks, 2 weeks.
Thank
You
you.
can come in next week if you really want to.
That's all right. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is a swap too. And
Yeah.
that might be an issue, I know the son Bill.
Right, that was seniors.
Junior
Yeah.
built it, senior originally started the project.
Yeah, exactly, so that's.
They're working on us together too.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys being here.
Thanks.
Glasses.
Oh.
Glasses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. All right, moving on to 37 South Street. Any updates, Jay?
Nothing.
Great.
The piles are moved, so it's all set.
Okay, so let's lump the next two, off Groveland and former Davies Farm together, on Wednesday, June 8th. At 3 o'clock, from 3 to 4:45 PM. It is, well, there's a lot of granite.
Yeah.
You're ready?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners Cody, Busa, Buttrick, Kraus, and Ryan. I did that alphabetically.
Except for you.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, I did put myself first. Buttrick, Busa, Buttrick, Cody. Okay. Accompanied, you ready? Can you fix that first? Okay, accompanied, Bernard Gall, Attorney Tom Vincent, David Cameron, DEP Western Regions Wetlands Section Chief, David Foulis, Foulis, DEP Western Region Wetlands Analyst. And Sean, S-E-A-N, Libby, L-I-B-B-E-Y, DCR Service Forester.
I can't believe
On a site visit regarding potential violations of the Wetlands Protection Act relative to both properties owned by all off Groveland and the former Davies Farm.
So it's two different things.
Yes, and actually the off Groveland is like 20 to 30 separate parcels, because of the way that land is laid out. Groveland is where we entered. We congregated at the driveway to the former Davies Farm, and then we consolidated and caravan down to the end of Groveland. And we walked along existing forest roads from the end of Groveland up to the Davies Farm parcel. commission, myself specifically, had reached out to both DCR and DEP for support regarding these potential violations, because the scope of them is beyond the city's ability to respond to effectively. The gist of it is DEP is going to continue their investigation, including but not limited to conducting interviews regarding the use of the land. And we observed, since the commission's December 31st, 2015 site visit, and Jay, what day were you out there?
I'd have to go back.
You'd have to look back.
Yeah,
DCR's May 10th, 2016 site visit. There was at least one additional culvert crossing improvement that unaffirmative.
You said December 13th.
December 31st, so it was New Year's Eve, when there was a concern expressed by a Groveland Street neighbor. It had to do with clearing out potentially jurisdictional drainages, side casting spoils at least 3 locations that we observed. There are at least 2 other culvert crossings where stone or other material retaining walls have been constructed recently. And that's since May 10th. So we are waiting to hear from either or both DEP and DCR as to what they've learned through their investigations. So that's where that stands. Any look on that date, Jim?
No.
Is that the date that, I think we could go back in the minutes and find it.
Yes.
Okay.
As far as the clearing,
So what triggered the call to DCR for assistance around May 10th was when Jay had been out there. It must have been early May, Jay.
Yeah, look at it, just don't see it on was it Saturday?
Yep.
Saturday
Saturday
morning.
morning. Yes, for there.
He wasn't
I'll let
jumping
me
out.
sit down. So, the DCR service force, or on that date, issued, on May 10th, issued a cease and desist violation of the improved forest cutting plan, including work outside the approved area and work by unlicensed timber harvesters on a commercial cutting plan. And based on the site visit, I believe that is still in effect because of the violations of the Wetlands Protection Act that he noted. So as I understand it, our next step is to see what we hear from DEP and or DCR. Jay, are there any updates on 232 Park Street?
I met with Mr. Gall on May 28th at 232 Park Street. toured the driveway and down into the woods, and I didn't see any major clearing or anything. He said his brother was in there cutting wood or taking wood, but I didn't see like, any equipment being used or, nothing's bulldozed. It's just, maybe just, cutting up dead trees and taking those things. But I don't know what was the call that got me there? What were they saying? Just the activity coming out of the street?
That there was renewed activity at the location, and that you can't, that
Can't
is
see
where
from
there
the
are
street.
wetlands on the property.
Right.
White Brook flows through there, it's a perennial stream. I guess just to.
There was a number of crossings that we looked at, but nothing had been altered, nothing had been
Okay.
changed on the crossings, culverts.
So. So there is a provision under the agricultural exemptions for the cutting of trees within resource areas and buffer zone by owners for their own use, not to exceed 5,000 board feet or 10 cords of wood during any 12-month period without an approved forest cutting plan.
And I didn't even see that
And
active.
you
I
didn't see any.
no new tree
So,
stubs or.
so the thing about that on any property is that it's by the owner for their own personal use, and there cannot be a commercial component to it.
His brother sells firewood, so
So-
it's commercial.
Right, so that, and there are multiple restrictions on that exemption.
But I just didn't see any clearly like that.
Yeah. And I don't know how to measure that though.
There was vehicle activity on the dirt road,
Mhm.
but no track marks, no excavators, no.
Okay. So, at this point, I don't think there's anything to pursue there, unless
No, I didn't.
something else comes up.
Unless there's something
Okay.
else comes up.
So we will strike that from the next agenda. Okay, open space updates. Jess isn't here to discuss this, but she did get the mayor's nod of approval to talk to the purchasing officer about putting out an RFP/Q for tree removal on the Equidale West Orchard. So she's gonna find out what to do with the procurement officer, and then hopefully, maybe at our next meeting on the 10th, there'll be something to talk about. We also got the approval to use open space funds for the public lands study by a student this summer, over the summer, that Jess will be managing.
Jesus Christ.
So, you're welcome to come up closer if you can't hear. So, with that, we'll move on to compliance updates, active projects, open permits. Any updates regarding Mount Tom Estates? Nothing. All right. Hall Street Extension. Hall Street. So, did you actually send a request for certificate of compliance?
No, I did
Okay.
not. We just wanted to.
Want to make sure I didn't miss that.
No, you did not miss it. We would like to get on your agenda for the 27th, to do a partial release for lot number 1.
A partial release.
Right, that's what you,
Yeah, but,
because that's only for
it's
that
part
lot.
of the, yeah,
It's
yeah,
part
yeah,
of
yeah.
the entire subdivision,
Okay,
like you've done the other
Yep.
lots.
so can you
And-
provide a site plan?
Yes, I'll do an inspection on Friday, and, I'm sorry, you asked for what? A site?
The lot plan?
Okay, you want an as-built?
Yep.
Okay.
Can anyone do a site visit on either this Saturday or the following?
Sure.
Which one?
I could do following.
I think the 18th is in your best interest. I can't do the 18th, but
That's just the Saturday, right?
the 18th is this Saturday, the 25th is, I can't do that either. So collectively, who could do,
I can do 25th. I can do.
okay, you guys figure out which day.
I can only do
Can you do which one can you do?
I think we this weekend.
the 26th.
So then the 25th is you,
Great, 25th.
Okay.
That's fine.
So,
Same deal.
can you have the as-built before the 25th by email?
I think so, yes.
Okay, so.
Yep.
What's the street number of that one, Mark?
23.
Oh,
23.
that is, it was in there, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
9 a.m.
Yeah.
9 a.m. works.
Okay. So, if you could get us that
You're on
paperwork.
Okay, yep. David can meet you there on the.
Okay. Thank you, and grass building, silt sacks replaced, great.
Yeah, the grass is, coming in nice and thick.
Yeah, and clean the street and replace the silt sacks, which is excellent.
Yes, it's an ongoing
It is.
event for David.
All right. Things seem to be in order, so
It's his life.
we'll see you on the 27th, and they'll see you on the 25th.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
By the way, you're amazing people.
Thank you. Next, Pleasant Street Mills.
A little bit of erosion here and there, but nothing really that serious. There's a steep area near, behind the abandoned building brewery, where the ramp goes down. It's probably gonna be a problem area going forward until they can really get planted and secured.
So here are 8 weeks of SWIP inspection reports, if anyone wants to look at them all at once, the way we receive them. So actually, can you make a note in the meeting minutes that we need to request that those be provided on a weekly basis? Not 8 weeks at once? Bi-monthly, not in a better way for us. It's just, they're gonna be provided 8 weeks at once, there's no point. So we also received an invasive plant management strategy, landscape improvement project rear 180 Pleasant Street.
This same project.
Same project, Pleasant Street Mills, from prepared by Vegetation Control Service, Inc. of Athol, Mass.
What were the conditions regarding invasive species? Do you remember?
We have to go back to the actual permit.
And what did we get from?
An invasive plant management strategy.
There's a phragmites in this little wetland area.
Into a little contained area.
So the wetlands along the bike path / former railbed were all connected by drainage pipes to the pond. Therefore, they were bordering vegetated wetlands. And so there was some alteration as part of the project that was permitted. And this is the invasive management plan. And the species are Phragmites, black locust, various shrub honeysuckles, black swallowwort, multiflora rose, and garlic mustard. And they also plan to control poison ivy, which I don't think anyone will mind.
And this is for both sides of the path, or is it just the skinny areas rather than black plastic?
So this looks like,
I think it's just on one side.
it's actually one area.
So is it
Looks
just
like
that area?
it's
at
rear
that end
180.
That's protected by
Quite
a
possibly.
fence?
Quite possibly, it's right here. I'm not sure if that has sometimes. So it's actually parallel to the parking area for Lower Mill Pond Park. Between that and the mill buildings. And they're proposing, okay, that's not how you're supposed to wet. So they run through some of the basic biology of some of the basic biology of these invasives. proposed treatment methods for shrub honeysuckle and black locust, non-motorized backpack foliar herbicide application in areas where they are less than 2 feet in height. Rodeo, Escort, Polaris. Stump treatment will be a mix of rodeo and something else. Phragmites, multiflora rose garlic mustard and black swallowwort will again be rodeo, Escort, Polaris, some surfactant in the water conditioner, as well as a drip agent. Licensed applicators, all approved herbicides.
Is it in the wetland, it's in the buffer zone area?
I think we need to look at the site plan, because it is technically a wetland area. It's swale that
It's right in
was.
the wetland, right?
Yeah, it's railroad swale that became wetlands, and then because it's connectivity to upgradient wetlands, other swales that form wetlands will all connect by pipe and then to the pond.
So can you like walk up the pipe?
That's a good point.
Because I don't know.
During
if it's
treatment.
chemical still.
They're very typical.
Okay.
Doesn't. They're legal to use by licensed applicators. There's some photos here, I'm gonna pass around. Honestly, I've not looked at this much. I don't know if anyone else has.
My concern is with the timing.
Yeah, do they talk about it?
They talk about,
A
well,
little bit?
I don't think they say when they're going to do it, but it's at 0 and 90 days, and that's it.
That's
Which
not-
isn't going to control anything.
Right.
Um,
So,
Do they reapply?
At 90 days, but that's it. And then they say,
And
it
then-
may be recolonized by all the things around it.
And-
They won't even.
so the shortcoming is, this is the contractor, and that's the term, that's probably within the term of their contract. And beyond that, they're not responsible, or I don't know how the contract's been structured. But they're, I guess the follow-up question would be to the city, what's the city's long-term plan? Or the mill owners, I don't know
Right,
whose it is.
It may be, the mill owner may be taking care of some of that also.
So then the question is, what will the mill owner do?
Well, it's Mike who.
Okay, it's not yours.
180, so,
Forget which one is yours, too.
Well, and do we know why it's just this piece and not the entire?
Probably because
piece of
it's
work?
that one mill owner.
Well, that's the one that has the Phragmites in
Worse.
it.
But the entire path is lined with black swallowwort.
So this is a public-private partnership. So it's not just the city and it's not just the mill owners right now. So I think that it's not gray, it's a gray area, basically. It's not. So I think perhaps it would be best if we asked Jess to speak to this at our next meeting.
Right, she would know more detail
Mhm.
about it.
And did I forward the email the commission received about all the zip files and
Yes,
SDS
yes,
and?
yes.
Okay. So. So let's just make this. I mean, theoretically, some is better than none, but I understand your point too, what's the point in doing it if, at all, if
Yeah.
it's for such a short period of time, there's no long-term,
I think Jess
management.
can talk to that.
Yeah, that would
So I
be,
think there is a long-term discussion.
so.
Melissa, excuse me, what's
Yeah.
the name of the outfit that submitted that management plan?
Vegetation Control Service, Inc.
Yep.
Of Athol. So we'll ask Jess to talk about this at the next meeting. Specifically, are there other target areas that may need to be addressed, and is there a long-term
How did you want to follow up with us?
About, specifically about other, other potential target areas for treatment and long-term management plans.
So are they asking for our approval?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Anything on 15 Cottage Street, Jay?
I don't see any activity.
Okay. So the next, I'm gonna skip 184 because I'm gonna lump the Oxbow and Town Beach together. I reached out to Terry Smith from Office of Fishing and Boating Access. He stopped by Town Beach on June 6th and said the vegetation seems to be established well. Jay, would you agree?
I agree.
So, he would like from us to tell him that it's okay to remove the erosion control barriers and then they'll proceed with filing.
Yes.
Okay, so I will get back to him and say, okay. And I'll ask him to file both. So, next, 184 Northampton Street.
Yeah, I went back a second time and the erosion barriers were in place, so that was all set and they started the project.
Great. No updates on Lathrop. Okay, PCT Mutterfield. So, Mark, do you want to
Yeah,
talk us
sure.
through this?
Yeah, right, yeah, no, okay.
Do you have a plan?
Yeah, we have a plan. Bill's here. So that, the trust is looking to get some more CPA money to do 2 different areas of additional work. And I had emailed the commission a copy of a cover letter from Bill to me, kind of outlining the areas that we're talking about. I got some extra copies of this. So one area is up in the north end of it. This is the Stella Warnes Memorial. So, and there's a sitting bench area that is there, and they like to extend it in.
There's a memorial boulder in there, so.
Right.
It's kind of, yeah, it kind of, it hooks on to the Brickyard Conservation area trail.
Which is here, so.
And that's why we put the stub out here from this loop.
And that's outside buffer zone?
It is within a 100-foot buffer zone
Oh.
of the brook continuing through.
Okay, it's hard to,
Yeah, it's.
this looks like this loops around.
It kind of goes off the map, you
Yeah.
know, Melissa.
Right.
It's, the scale wise, it's about right in here. There's a little tributary that comes down and hooks into Brickyard Brook. And there's a bank right in here. And what they
Okay.
want to do is they want to extend this, the trail from the loop in here to a point where they can provide a little wide out area so a couple people in wheelchairs can kind of congregate together and look over the bank down into the brook area or everything else.
Built the same way, same construction? Or?
This particular one will be used the same technique as we've done out in the field, and that's with the chalks and the batter and the boarding on the site, and so it'll be raised.
Yep.
No excavation.
Yep.
There is one stump right smack in the middle of that area that we're just gonna grind down a little bit. Yeah, just grind it down a little bit. This is a little concept sketch that I did of it. So this is the boulder and Stella Warnes bench. The PCT is kind of like noodling around exactly how the configuration of this would go, because they have their own ideas. But it's a concept for what we would do. So we extend it from the existing loop trail, and then we find a place where it would end and just kind of slope down to roughly 4 inches to meet the existing trail. And that trail goes along the bank and kind of comes down. There's brook crossings and everything else there.
And that's the Brickyard Brook.
Yes,
Conservation area.
right. So, I mean, the big thing is that they want to enhance the connectivity down here in this area here. Obviously, the grades start to get tough, it's not handicap accessible, only to this point here, but they want to do as much as they can.
Right. So we would put the erosion control barrier up at the top of the slope and to protect any, potential erosion
So,
from, I got extra copies.
with the exception of that one stump that you need to grind down, are there what kind of vegetation removal do you need to do here? Are there any trees greater than 4 inches?
It is a well-used part of the trail, yeah, and this, I went out here and kind of located a couple of trees roughly with the measuring tape and everything else. There will be no other vegetation that needs to be removed because it's in an open area where the trail, people use the trail. Yeah, right, and there's no, because it is so densely shaded there and everything else, there's no undergrowth there and everything else, so it's a pretty easy thing of just setting up the boards, setting up the chocks, and then the boards, putting the stone in and the stone dust on top of that. Oh, and we'll put some filter fabric down first and then put the stone and the stone dust on top of it.
So those 2 trees are gonna be removed?
No, they're gonna stay.
Oh, they are, okay.
Yep, we're gonna keep.
Yeah, they're just gonna, I put them on there so they had a rough, some, context exactly of where they're going and everything else. All they wanna do is just kinda go in there and utilize what's already been cleared out and everything else.
Is the new construction be pitched away from the cliff?
Well, the one thing that this doesn't show, and it was brought up at a PCT meeting, is we'll probably put up a little bit of a guardrail right here. Yeah, good idea, right? So,
Like a wood?
Yeah. I put this together as quickly as I possibly could. I met with the PCT Trust, and I said, well, you guys are all hipped up and ready to go and want to do this, and we're going to get some additional CPA funding. We're in the buffers. We got to go back and we got to make sure that we bring the Conservation Commission up to speed here, and we talk to them about what we're doing and see what direction we can kind of go in with getting this additional work permitted. So that's one area, and Mark can speak.
Yeah, and then the other area is from East Green Street. The wood chips that were installed as a part of the culvert repairs and removal. They would like to do the same, is to remove the wood chips and continue that same format.
Well, we're not gonna use the
boards. Won't use the boards, because that's how they're gonna access vehicles in here for maintenance.
Just the stone dust?
The stone dust.
So it'll
Just leave
be
the stone
on
dust.
geotextile, and what'll keep it from?
Well, what will happen is that we're getting a price so that we put a little 3-foot wide earthen shoulder on either side of the stone dust to kind of hold the stone dust in. Roughly from where the railings are on the culvert crossing to our loop. At the railings, we're gonna put up some wood sideboards, and we have a little detail of that on here, on the plan. We're gonna put up some timber or sideboards and attach them to the railing posts to contain the stone, the fabric, the stone base, and the stone dust for the width between the railings and everything.
You want to be able to drive maintenance vehicles
Yes,
down.
right, so we have to kind of do that for the crossing right here. And then we'll try to work it in as best we can between the railing out to East Green Street as well. From the culvert to our loop, because it's fairly open in there, and again, we've got to get the maintenance vehicles in there. We're just gonna kind of just do a little bit of an earthen shoulder on either side of the stone dust path in order to contain it.
Okay.
And we'll seed it we'll vegetate it, when we get it graded out.
Is this the apron you're talking
Yeah,
about?
Well,
this
yes.
is, yeah, this is the apron, so there'd be an asphalt apron added, it's highlighted at the end.
Yeah.
So to try to make this higher,
Well, the problem.
to get the water to run into this?
Well, the problem is that we put stone there, loose stone there, and the snow plows
Okay.
coming in there, they just blow everything out, they push everything around, and the stone gets piled up, and it's very difficult to traverse from the paved cul-de-sac to the trail. And so we've gotta pave it. And it's virtually, it will be pitched slightly to the swale so that it drains that way and everything else, but it's mainly as a driveway apron, okay? And at the time, we were trying to get CPA funding, we were in the throes of trying to get permitted, and the CPA committee was kind of holding us back a little bit on funding, so we just, we got the wood chips approved and everything else. Well, they're kind of spongy and very, very soft, and they're very thick. And so there's difficulty with wheelchairs to get kind of through that kind of a spongy surface. Although this one fella down here does a pretty darn good job of getting through here. He's got the fat tires on his, his wheelchair. Yeah, yeah, we have to put up speed bumps and signs out here, you know. So this, again, this is an effort to connect the loop to East Green Street and that, the densely settled neighborhood as well.
For more handicap, potential usage and so forth. But still maintaining the maintenance off of East Green Street for mowing and.
So still no excavation?
No excavation. We are going to put this filter fabric on the surface, stone, the angular stone, and then our stone dust. And like I said, we'll have to put a little bit of earthen shoulders on either side of that.
What's the reason we're not using boards there?
Well, because we've got the vehicles that have to straddle this whole pathway coming in. Basically, East Green Street is going to be our main access into this whole site in the open field with vehicles. And we just want to avoid a lot of maintenance and headaches and damage that the maintenance vehicles will do driving and hitting the water, driving over the wood.
It's only 3/4 inch cedar, so if you drive a pickup truck or a heavy lawnmower over it, just shatter it. It won't stand up.
So how do they get into the middle of the field?
So right now, we've got a crossing.
Oh,
And
We got a space in the boards.
Okay.
And we got a couple of posts, we got 4 posts in there that kind of demarcate that opening, get them into the loop, inside the loop area, where there's loads and loads and loads of black swallow work.
Yeah.
Yeah. We find it. Yeah. Yeah, it's a nightmare.
And poison ivy.
And poison ivy,
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I guess a question that, came to my mind is that we do have, an existing order of conditions for the work that's ongoing on the project. And whether the commission would want to do an amended order of conditions for this additional work, or a new filing, or accept it as a minor revision. Modification to it. So I said, well, let's meet with the commission and ask. And you don't have to decide tonight, because they're still going through, trying to get the funds. Hopefully they get the funds from CPA.
But we wanted to try to get into you,
If you wanna think about
commission
it.
here to try to introduce you to, our thinking here.
Right.
Considering I had
So
a
we're
portal
not-
with me when I last looked at this area, does anyone want to do a site visit? We can either do one as a group or do one on our own.
Let's just do it randomly. and then-
Yeah.
It's pretty
And then we'll
straightforward,
come back
pretty
with
straightforward.
Discussion at our next meeting.
Yeah, right.
So there's not going to be a formal site visit, it's going to be,
So I think the last time we were discussing the culverts and whether or not they're stable enough to hold vehicles for them to go over.
Yeah.
Was there some sort of analysis done, or is that an issue?
No, this is, for the amount of times that the vehicles are gonna go over that culvert, they are concrete, reinforced concrete pipes, and they're at quite a
Pretty
depth.
deep.
Okay.
They're probably
You're not gonna get crushed.
12 to 15 feet, maybe not 15, 10 to 12 feet
Say
lower
30
than a
feet.
roadbed, so they won't crush.
Okay.
No issue.
No issue at all.
Our problem last time, the reason why we had to get it repaired was that they weren't put together right in the first place.
Which, and there were quite a few sections up into the brook channel that were just completely falling apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just literally just laid right into the brook.
But this stone head wall and reinforced area is in great shape and stable.
How's that slope holding up?
It's holding up pretty good.
Yeah,
And it looks good. I mean,
Yeah, we gotta, there's,
yeah.
I even went out there and planted some ferns there, and I planted some ostrich fern in there, and a few other things. But there's a lot of jewelweed that kind of started their own little regime in there and everything else. There is one little corner where, at the base of a large oak tree that we're gonna put some jute netting in and just kind of shoot it with a little bit with hydro seed and everything else, just as some added insurance. Just in this little particular area, up at the level of the roadway.
But yeah, it's stable. There's two culverts in here. The easterly culvert is taking the main flow by elevation. The westerly culvert is slightly higher. So the main channel, brook channel, goes through the easterly culvert during a heavy rain event. Then it also goes through the westerly culvert. It's working good. We went in there and cleaned out some twigs and some leaves, just the maintenance of making sure that those pipes stay open. So.
And we provided your weekly report.
Yes.
But for some reason,
It's a short side paper.
Yeah, and Pioneer is stepping up the pace as far as getting this done. So that, I think even within the next week or two, they'll start doing plantings out there.
That's the parking lot area.
Yes, the parking area off of. I mean, I'm sorry.
No, wrong site, wrong
Yeah,
project.
sorry. East Street. So I have extra copies of these plans, if other members wanna take them. You good? Okay.
Copies, nicer.
Yeah, right.
I have a hard copy, so.
Okay, anyone else like a?
What's the best access point when you go? Is it the?
East
Green
Street, East Green Street cul-de-sac is right there, and then you can kind of walk in over the culvert.
And you can walk up.
I mean, that's where the two, our two requests are
Yeah.
easier to get from East Green Street. The trail is in all the way to this point right here. So you could kind of walk down to this brook right in here.
What's the parking, what's the rules about parking at the end of East Green Street?
It's a public way, as long as you're not blocking the
Driveway.
driveway, you're all set.
Yeah.
And there's no issue.
It's a public street there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just know in other, like, not Tom, people don't.
Oh,
Parking has been
well.
adopted.
Well, you know, in this particular case in here, you know, obviously hope that it doesn't turn into a big parking lot or whatever. More people are gonna be apt to kind of walk down this area here because it is in a really thickly settled, densely settled neighborhood. They're gonna walk down here, and I told you about the one guy, he takes his racer down through here and everything else too. He doesn't park down here, he just comes down the middle of the street, literally. I've seen him in action, you know, and just kind of pulls his way in there. You know.
Okay, so we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Okay.
I appreciate you getting us on the agenda in such short notice.
Well, we always have updates, so that was an update.
Yeah, as
It
well.
comes in handy.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, good night. All right, I don't have any updates on Williston. Okay. And Nashwanis Pond Aquatic Vegetation Management, Dan Buttrick met with Gary Golis, sorry, like the last name, this evening, actually. He anticipates they'll likely begin in early July. There just isn't enough growth yet to make it worthwhile. And we'll get updates accordingly. So it could start as soon as early July. Okay.
We should talk about Mr. Courtney because
He's
been
been waiting
very
patiently.
patient.
Okay,
We did a
so
site
let's
visit
do
on
that.
Saturday.
To the property, is this the same parcel as Taste of Health in the driving range, or is this a separate parcel adjacent to it?
Adjacent to it.
Okay, just for clarity in the minutes. So, that's. So how big are these areas? Those don't look like panoramic photos, Jay.
Yeah, nice, huh?
That's nice.
This is like, what do we think, 25 by 15 or something, 25 feet by
Yeah.
15 wide.
And about how deep is the water?
It was really dark, so you couldn't really see how deep it was in
You
the middle.
didn't wade?
but Yeah, we didn't send anybody in, but next time we will. But I'll say,
Does the depth make a difference?
It could, yeah.
but I'll say a foot deep, but it could be, if you stepped in there, it'd be pretty muddy and you'd sink in.
Yeah.
A lot of, broken down plant material.
So what did you say it was?
Now, this one here is like 25 feet long, 15 feet wide. Yeah,
That's
this is
not
the,
nearly.
But that one does have an outlet.
this one.
And where does the outlet go?
It goes down into.
We're gonna say it's on this side. I
What
think
is
it's
in
on
the
this side
building? Is
here.
it a jurisdictional street?
That's the one we investigated,
This
we did
is-
the Bernie Gall.
Oh.
Visit.
This here was the ditch.
Is that your photo or is that my eyes?
That's my photo.
Okay.
I don't see it very good.
Okay.
This was the ditch, what's it, October 7th?
Yeah.
Okay, October 7th. There were two of these ditches. There was this one, there was one in front. Okay? I go down there, different part of my land every day, sometimes 2 parts or 3 parts. I'm getting a little tired of it. I go down here 2 months later, and we go to these pictures of the dam suspended under that ditch. So I would like you to do, if you would, is send a letter to the DEP in Springfield and talk to those folks. I want to thank you all for coming over. I learned a lot. Now, in a 3-day period, 3 different sections of that, or 4-day period, no, 3-day period, 3 different sections of that, trees got pulled over. And I don't know if Jay got looking over with his
Well,
truck
my
and pulled
concern is that
over.
I can't see any evidence of any heavy equipment or light equipment that was in there that would have caused any of that. So for me, it's hard to say that we should pursue something with DEP.
I don't
because
want you to, I don't want you to pursue anything, I just want to get some information on it
Okay.
from the DEP.
Okay.
There's other issues on our property. We have another section where, I don't know if I can pull it up or not.
But the main reason why we went out there Saturday was to
Correct. It wasn't
discuss
for
these 2 areas here, so.
I just wanted to show the ladies what I have a little attitude problem. In that, on the environmental study we had done,
For approval of wetland resource area
no,
boundaries?
well, it's not when we were told it was a state law that you can't separate property and not have it environmental study done. We were told that by the people who were dealing with it.
Okay.
So we had it done. We haven't worked in there, we've had the property 116 years, 6 generations. We never had a plow or a backhoe. We had a couple, 3 or 4 farm tractors, and a rake and a harrow and a plow and whatever, hay bale. So, but anyways, I'm just tired. I got 1,000 pictures. We're having issues up by Northampton Street. That brook's been moved. Remember the brook up next to McDonald's you want to look at?
Yeah, Bernie got a permit to move that in the 80s.
So what?
The stream next to McDonald's, he got
Oh,
a
yeah.
permit to move that in the 80s.
He moved that, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
But now it's been moved over on our land, that we own. So I might have had my sister sign something after we had it surveyed. Maybe in around 2001, my sister died in 2002. We had it surveyed twice, and we had the land registered with the Registry of Deeds. So he's putting in the A&Rs that the brook is the dividing point on the property, and that's not the case. We registered it, it's been leased, they've been paying money on it for 12 years. So my question would be, if I'm correct, let's say I'm not correct, but maybe I'm correct. If I'm correct and the brook's been moved, do you have to allow McDonald's to push water over our land?
I don't
Excuse my
know.
language, to push water over our land?
I don't know that sort of law.
Or would the DEP know that?
Possibly.
Then how about the other abutters? Do you have to allow them to put water over our land? We don't know, so you don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I would say you can't convey drainage of our property without an easement. But I don't know those things. That's not in the Wetlands Protection Act.
No,
So-
those pictures you're looking at, that wasn't, in October 7th, that there wasn't a stream there. All that land said pine needles on it for 100 years. The land's dead. The reason I had them over, I was thinking of going in there, cutting some trees, putting some lawn down, cleaning it up, but that's obviously too much of a problem right now. So. I have one other problem. Jay didn't seem to see what I see, but he wouldn't because he was down by Picnic Rock on the other part of the field. And this part of the canal's been removed. It was removed December 27th, 28th, and 29th at night. But the part of the canal that's left, and the brook down below, instead of coming over to the river, it's now going down straight here. It must have changed its route. And where the canal is here, this has been cut out. So, because the property owners down here will lose 100 feet from the brook, is that correct? On
If
building?
it's intermittent, if it's perennial, there's a 200-foot riverfront area, but they'd have to stay 100 feet away from it.
They have, and the river they gotta stay 200 feet away from, is that correct?
Yeah, depends on, yeah.
So they're gonna lose 300 feet. Well, if this brook now that's been here since we've owned the property, if it's moved over here, over and down, which looks like what's gonna happen, they pick up 100 feet here, and we lose 100 feet over here. So what I'm keeping my eye on it. When it gets moved, I'll come in and I'll bitch, and that'll probably all will happen, but whatever. But, so there's 3 areas that are concerned. Now we have a brook where there was no brook. We're getting a ton of fill from Stop and Shop, hopefully, or Hannaford's, or Piggly Wiggly, or whatever decides to come in there, but I was in the fill on the driving range is pristine. We've put manure on that 3 seasons a year for 50 years, 60 years. So we're getting that fill. I don't know what we can do with the fill if we get it. Material storage on our land?
Again, you're asking me something that isn't in the Wetlands Protection Act, so
Okay.
I can't speak to that.
Oh, I see, that'll be the planning board.
I don't know who that would be, but it wouldn't be conservation, I think, the way you're asking us.
So anyways, I just thought I'd come and make me feel better. But thank you for coming over. They were very helpful. They
I'm
seemed
sure
like
they were.
possibly fill one of those ponds,
Well,
second one's in between, and the third one, no.
Well, I know, but the discussion here tonight needs to be what you need to do if you are serious about filling these things in. Does he need to file a notice of intent or an RDA? He's gonna have to have someone flagged this area to
Right.
determine?
Exactly, I mean, this is the hardest kind of area to eyeball. You can't just eyeball it, you need a survey to determine,
Does the survey have to be recent?
yes, it has to be existing conditions.
It has to be what?
Existing conditions as they exist at that time.
We're not talking about surveying the whole property.
How many years back, I think is what he's asking.
3 years. 3 or less. 3 years or less old on the
Now,
survey.
because we were doing this with the culvert, which was part of the property on phase 2, our phase 2, what we're talking about now, is the law that because we were in court for 4 years and because the state came in and said you have an extra 4 years, that's why we have the permits and stop and shop till 2020. Does that affect you folks or not?
That affects permits, it doesn't affect wetland delineations. A wetland delineation is not applicable to the to the permitting act.
So I gotta have them, have Heritage come in and flag that?
Heritage or another qualified consultant.
So they come in and they flag it, and you guys make the decision what we can do with it. Is that correct?
Not exactly. So you have a consultant delineate the resource areas, and they identify what they are relative to the Wetlands Protection Act. And then you can either submit a abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, which is what was submitted previously, and we review and approve or disapprove of their decision, or we modify. Or you skip that step and you use those boundaries and those resource area definitions, and you propose work. And we review it all at once.
I see.
And again, the boundaries are subject to discussion.
What can I do about this, anything?
I don't know. I mean, if you think someone is trespassing on your property, that's a property issue, not a wetlands issue.
So who would I talk to that?
The police.
The police.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
any permits that are submitted have to be approved by the executor of the trust.
Would you know if my sister signed something on that brook on Northampton Street?
I don't know, I don't know.
I don't know.
That was before any of us were
But you're-
involved in the city.
But your brother is the executor of the estate, so, you know, I, as a city official, I would not accept paperwork that's just submitted by you. It's gotta be approved by the trust. Just to be clear.
I got, all right, well, you took enough of your time, and thank you for coming over.
Next time, bring the whiskey.
Those are yours, Jay?
Yeah.
Okay,
This-
and is this is Logan, never
Yes.
mind. All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you, Mr. Courtney. So looking at those photos,
Well, yeah, I
I
mean-
see cause for concern is potential runoff.
Yeah, that was one of the things that
And
we talked about, but I
Okay,
couldn't see
sure.
what was in there. There was little things swimming around, but I couldn't see if there was shrimp or anything. It was so dark, it was hard to tell what was moving around in there.
And I agree, based on the photographs, that they look like wind throw with the way the root mass is.
What was his complaint? He feels like the trees are mysteriously.
People are
But no, he feels that someone is pushing the trees over with equipment.
Okay.
In the middle of the night.
Right.
And moving streams.
But I walked down there and there's no evidence of any vehicle activity in the last,
Yeah, there's no
there's
track
nothing.
marks or anything.
There's
power
not spaces
marks.
between the trees where you could get any kind of equipment through there to do what he's saying, so. I just
So-
find it hard to believe that it could happen the way he's describing it, but.
I'd be interested to see the weather patterns after he took those pictures, just to see if there was like a huge rainfall event that could cause that.
Followed by big wind.
Yeah.
Weather underground. We had around October 7th, between October and December 2015. Those are the dates on check it out. Those are the dates on the photos. You can go get lots of weather history, including precipitation data.
Is it weather underground?
Wonderground, W-U-N, yeah.
You can also check the weather.
Yeah, and current weather, but I've only used it for
Historic.
yeah, recorded precipitation.
And you were saying that that had not ever had water flowing through it before?
Well, it looks like it just, the field sheet flows off into it and
Right.
it,
And that sounds like that's part of the area that we looked at relative to the concerns
from the other
from
side,
Highland
yeah,
Ave.
when we were looking from the other side, this same gully.
So, really, I'm glad everyone was able to go out there. I'm sorry I wasn't able to join you.
I just want us to back it up too, about calling her out there.
Nice.
Calling it.
I would say, just more as a word of caution a reminder to us all, we are not the city's consultants. So, the burden is on the property owner, the applicant, to present something to the commission for its approval. And this is clearly a complicated site history. Ownership is not straightforward like it is on other.
And he's not the executor of this estate.
He does not have the authority.
He doesn't have
to-
the authority to file a piece of paper.
And if I
So-
recall correctly, I don't recall if the ORAD is still valid. Because the ORAD actually would have been affected by the Permanent Extension Act
Right.
as illogical as that would seem.
Mhm.
But the ORAD was just certain resource area boundaries as they pertained to the
To that
driving range, Tasty Top side of the stream that comes down along in the wooded area there. Nothing else, as I recall. And it was just an ORAD, there was no work approved at any given point in time. So there are no there are no orders that were extended by the Permanent Extension Acts. So basically, anything that moved forward on anywhere on this property would have to start fresh. Okay. I didn't print out any minutes, so sorry. So we'll have to catch up at our next meeting on meeting minutes. So,
Draft wetlands.
good.
We'll just,
It's gonna fall.
just make corrections as is.
So I basically, and I probably just skimmed over the details, but I said that the mayor said that it was okay to talk to the procurement officer about the RFP or queue to remove trees, and that we got the okay to use open space funds for the public lands documentation. Great. Follow-up question for you regarding the Pleasant Street Mills invasive management plan.
Okay.
That's, as Julie pointed out, that's a very short.
Is Mike gonna take over the responsibility of that?
Mike's taking over the responsibility. We're only paying for 2 applications.
Right.
So there's no guarantee that those 2 applications are gonna do anything.
Okay.
But we're gonna take a stab at it. It's part of the grant, so we need to do it now because the grant money is no longer available in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So there was a lot more documents to the electronic file. If you open those zip files, it was just chock full of stuff, and I was not about to print them all out because it didn't seem.
That got shared with everyone.
Okay.
So, I guess the question is, if the mill owner is going to continue this, he would have to file as well?
I believe he knows that.
Okay.
And the plan that we received looks like it only covers a very small portion.
It is, it's only that small wetland.
Is there a larger plan or anything in the conditions to deal with the rest of the area that was worked on?
No, it's just for that small wetland right behind Mill 180.
Okay.
It had to do more with an aesthetics part of it as well, in terms of it's in the greater context of the bigger project site. the idea was if we could tackle some of the invasive, it might clean up that area a little bit more aesthetically and sort of fit in with the work that's been done. So that was sort of the thought process behind it.
What's Mike's last name?
Michon, M-I-C-H-O-N.
Would an earlier application than having the second follow-up done sooner make any difference? Would that make it more?
Do you know why
likely
zero and,
effective?
why 90 days was chosen?
That's what the consultant had proposed. I don't know anything about invasive species removal, that's why.
Julie, do you wanna follow up with the consultant?
I mean, if that's all that,
But with
there
60
needs to be
days-
like a multi-year plan, and if that's not his responsibility,
That's
then.
not his responsibility,
No,
he's
but
only
the
getting
0 and
paid.
90 versus 0 and 60 or 0 and 30, what, I mean, do you think that would be any more effective?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I actually think it, well,
We don't know if he's gonna do anything.
yeah.
I mean, we're really like, okay, well, let's give it a shot, let's try to tackle this, and Mike was here at the commission meetings when we were discussing the amendment, and he's fully aware that he will need to take responsibility and that he's gonna be responsible for permitting.
Okay.
So,
He seems willing to do that.
and he seems willing to do that.
So we do expect that there'll be follow-up beyond.
I
or-
believe so, from him, but not from the city, from the
Okay.
private mill owner.
Just, do we wanna go back to that discussion at this point, or do we wanna?
I mean, I kinda need to know whether it's a yay or nay, because
Oh, right,
otherwise,
the
I mean,
funding is given.
I'm up against the wall as it is now, so
Okay.
if you have issues with it, I would probably do a change order and just take it out of the whole project scope.
Was our only issue that it was just two treatments and that wouldn't do anything long-term?
Right.
So if there's a long-term thing behind this, then are we okay with pursuing that kind of?
But I understand the city's limitation as well,
Yeah.
so.
But I believe that was discussed during the amendment process, it was pretty clear, I think, to the commission that it was only gonna be 2 applications that the city's paying for, and that Mike was gonna take on responsibility. I mean, I'm 90% sure that's how the conversation went.
Approximately when was that?
Was it 4 or 6 months ago? I don't know,
that's fine.
somewhere.
Because I have this big memory, and I wanna
Right.
make sure I was like on the
We,
commission.
when we
at that
put the
time.
second,
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
put the landscape improvements out to bid,
Yeah.
it was part of it was one of the alternates to the bid, and we didn't wanna put it in the bid document until we made sure that it was approved by the commission,
Okay.
so.
You were worried about the outflow from the pipe.
Yeah, from where it connects to, from the.
So if there's surface water present in any, in the area to be treated, provide a temporary plug barrier to the outlet pipe
So the chemicals don't.
so that
mix
it
and
can't get
whatever.
conveyed into Lower Mill Pond, where it might actually,
Do something.
whatever.
Yeah.
Like where it might actually do what they're doing in Edgewater.
But if they're just hand swiping, is that going to even be?
Well, they talked about a foliar.
And a spray.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so,
For the wooden, they'll do.
Okay,
this
so
stuff,
I
but-
think this actually needs to come from an official correspondence from the commission, so if you could just at least put it in an email, somebody put it in an
can
email
you
of
put
what
that
you're.
in the minutes so that I can put that in an email?
And I'll let them
Send me the
know
minutes.
verbally that that they have a go-ahead based on what's been submitted.
A condition, go ahead.
A condition to go ahead?
Yep.
It's Lower Mill Pond.
Huh?
It's Lower Mill Pond that empties into.
Yes.
Yes. I thought you said what's
So
Lower Mill
to-
Pond.
Don't ask that.
Are you serious?
That's packed up.
That's how communication should be.
And there was something else, wasn't there?
To come back to.
Just about the plug? Or was there something?
Oh,
And
about this in particular?
And confirmation
I think
about
that was it.
property owner coming back.
Okay.
Yep. And then minimum 48-hour pre-application notification. Pre-invasive herbicide application.
Does there need to be any kind of signage to notify the public that we've done this there,
We can require signage.
since that is a heavily trafficked path?
Sure.
I don't know if that's typical or not.
That's exactly what we required for Nashwater Pond, so. Signage facing public ways.
Just
regarding.
There's no public ways down there, so that's.
Well, there's the bike
the
path.
The bike path and
A
a
mo-
parking
a-
area.
You know what I mean, how people walk around down there, not a paved roadway.
Well, public way
So-
means legally something in Massachusetts, I
Okay,
just wanna make sure
so
that we're clear about that.
the bike
So,
path.
Okay, just facing the bike path, not on
But
facing
it
the
should
parking
be,
lot?
it should be on the
Then
parking lot
parking
side
lot,
too.
yeah.
Okay,
So both sides.
all right.
Any area accessible to pedestrians. Minimum 2 signs.
Okay. So, let me just make sure I just have everything that I can email them. So, at the outflow of the pipe, that flows into Lower Mill Pond, make sure that's plugged so no chemicals go down to the.
Get
okay.
washed into Lower Mill Pond.
Confirmation with the property owner that there will be a long-term management, above and beyond
The two
two
applications.
applications. Minimum 48-hour application notification and signage on minimum 2 signs notifying the public of the application, one facing the bike path, one facing the parking lot.
Beautiful.
Is that everything?
Other than the 90 days between the first 2 applications, is that, we want to address that or let that be?
Might be.
It's not gonna only be for one day, right?
I thought he had said 60 days is what he had verbally told me, I don't say.
90 is what's in the.
Yeah, it's written 90.
He said 90.
So the notification will apply to each application, and the signage will apply to each application if it has become.
I'm sorry, I missed that for a second, sorry. The 48-hour, it was for.
That's for
both
each application,
Yep,
and the signage needs to be.
Yep.
If it comes down, it needs to go back up or be refreshed.
Okay.
Alrighty, okay, is there anything else? Oh, Tita and Howard. Oh, I've had a problem with stuff like that today. It was actually my shoe at work. No shoe begins with that. I pointed emphatically and it went blind. Okay. Is there anything else you need from me? No, we can go over Tita and Howard.
All right.
Sorry,
Thank
oh,
you.
Good night.
Good
Tate and Howard.
Tita, T-A-T-A, and Howard. Reed.
Which is?
Another consulting firm.
Oh.
Berry Street Water Main Bridge Crossing.
Oh, that one.
So is this corrugated metal covered walkway?
Are they asking for a?
They just want an informal, what kind of permitting, if any,
Right.
do we need for this?
They're gonna have to dig on either side of the
So-
bridge to connect to the water. so-
What they're not showing me here is edge of, I'm assuming that's edge of pavement.
Very straight.
So there's actually an exemption regardless of the.
Is it about the utility?
Utility exemption.
So, yeah, there's one for water. Installation of underground utilities, for example, electric, gas, water within existing paved or unpaved roadways. So this doesn't meet the exemption
Cause it's not over.
because they're not in, they're attaching it with ductile iron, or they're attaching it with structural pipe supports.
To the bridge.
To the bridge. So I would say they should file an RDA.
Is it gonna get buried on either side of the bridge?
Yes.
But if that's in the, yeah, so it goes outside the paved footprint, so I think, given the, but then it goes right back into the pavement.
Yes, on the other side.
So, I think,
So one side is
Coming out of the
outside.
I think an
ground,
RDA would
Oh, I see.
probably be sufficient for this.
Is this a walk, wait, is this a walkway or a
It
road?
on the
says-
side of the
yep.
bridge.
Corrugated
And then
metal
as it gets
covered
into the bridge,
walkway.
they
Back in the ground.
And then this is the road?
Yeah, bridge deck. I think this is edge of pavement. So it's this, it's. So I don't think they meet the letter of the exemption, nor do they meet the spirit, because it's outside the paved roadway.
Yeah.
But I think given the limited footprint of work, that an RDA would be sufficient.
What is this going through? Why is there a bridge here?
Lower Mill Pond is right here, so this
To
is,
cross the river?
this is like the northeast corner of Lower Mill Pond at Berry Street. So this is where it goes over a spillway.
People
And
finish
then
it.
it pass like over here, right?
There's an unused mobile home on the side.
Yeah, there's like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is the,
Okay,
this
got
is
it.
the far side from the bike path.
Okay.
Like, path's over here.
Cottage, whatever it's called.
There's a big map over there.
Yeah, here.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's, this is right here. So the bike path is here,
Okay.
and that's here.
Yeah.
Got it.
Good with an RDA.
I'll email them tomorrow.
So that was after determination of utility?
We're going to.
Request to request.
Yeah.
That was a request for a request for a.
That was a request for,
What type of file is this?
yeah.
They inquired with the commission regarding what type.
And this is just an update for anyone who remembers when Verizon came to us about at 51 Brook Street. They're going to start working, but their work is outside the buffer zone.
It's the really steep hill that they proposed. Is that the right one? You remember?
It's right by the park.
It's right, yeah, this is like on the way in the soccer field.
Okay.
But there's nothing.
And we issued a negative determination, right, they're outside the buffer zone.
Yeah, I think we just said that's silt fence there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to go look at it if
No.
they're gonna start?
Nope, it's, no, we didn't require that because they were outside the buffer zone.
What's the address again, sorry?
51 Brook Street.
Yes.
No, thank you. So anyone want their own copy of the invasive species stuff? Okay, we'll put that in the file. Where are all the SWIP reports?
They may be right here.
Okay, can you put this with those? Thank you. We've already addressed this, can you recycle that, please?
Did we need to ask Jessica to follow up with them about the SWIP reports?
I will.
Okay.
Why are we getting something from Flurry Lumber? Jay, did you go shopping?
We need a boat. Site visits.
Why are we getting an invoice for $120 from the community garden?
Oh, there you go. Give it to Danny.
No, it's community garden,
No, but he's the finance.
but he doesn't do community garden finance, they do their own, we cut them off.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we
I
freed
don't
them.
know.
$120?
Should that go in the minutes?
Yes.
Must be all the beds they made.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an invoice from Flurry Lumber for $120.46. Account number 409 for the East Hampton, description is East Hampton Community GAR. Spruce stuff for headlock screws and delivered to Layla. So, supplies for the community garden.
Invoice will be forwarded.
Passed along to Jessica Allen to be forwarded to community garden. Site plan approval, 5 Chapin, Pan Am, convert first floor of the Button Building from retail to retail and professional space. I don't think we have
Cause it'd be all inside.
It's all
interior work is what, I can't even remember, subject to the Mass. Protection Act.
It's interesting, you're getting takers on retail space.
That seems an RDA.
from Mass DOT.
Mass DOT for resurfacing and related work.
Okay,
This is
so,
section of Interstate 91.
so that'll be on our next agenda. Do we have this? I'll ask Tim if he can send it. Yeah, I'll ask Tim if he can send it electronically. If not, I'll scan it and email it since they're both signed plans. Do this with the paper cut.
Do you have a scanner for the 24x36?
Oh, hell yeah.
You don't have one of
We
those.
got good choices. I know how
Do I need to put that in there or it'll be?
Yeah, Mass DOT, RDA for Interstate 91.
For that little tiny sliver of it
Yep.
that's in the East Hampton.
So previously, they requested that we extend their negative determination, and that's not something the regulations allow, so,
Have to file again for us.
They have to file again. We'll also be getting an RDA at some point for water chestnut control from Cynthia, yeah,
For,
water bodies in East Hampton,
for all of them.
I think so. So
That's, we have 3 ponds, right? It would just be those, or is it also the Connecticut and the Oxbow?
It might be, yeah, yeah. So these are just copies of decisions.
Do we round file those?
Yeah, this is recycling too, because we already, that's not in our jurisdiction.
What are we doing with the copies?
And again, recycling, well, you feel free to take a look. This gets filed in Pan Am. That was our. So Mr. DEP. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a motion second?
Do we need to write that we'll do minutes next time?
Yeah, just make a note that we didn't approve any minutes at this meeting.
Or you still want to stay here?
No, motion to adjourn. I make a motion to adjourn.
We already have a motion.
How about a second?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Belly.